Alright, so just going to do some more cleaning up of comments and such. So we're on this subject, which is simple enough, just pointing out how, yes, momentum works in pushing things in space, and kinetic energy completely fails. And it should be understood it fails in all ways. So it doesn't matter whether I'm using the idea of throwing something to make movement, or whether something hits me, because that'll just be a ballistic pendulum all over again. And so either way, I can never be moved by the kinetic energy. And the only thing that will move me is transfers of momentum. So in empty space, if there's an object in empty space, the only way you can make it move is you have to apply momentum to it. You can't apply kinetic energy. So you can't change how much this thing moves by changing the kinetic energy. You can only change how much this thing moves by changing the momentum you hit it with, or the momentum you use to expel an object and get an equal and opposite reaction. So only momentum works. So it's just, and the word works, I just used the word works, and that means real work. That means like if work in the definition of physics, that is, it actually makes a successful transfer. All right. And obviously, in some cases when kinetic energy isn't conserved, physicists are trying to imply that it's somewhere else doing something. And obviously in those cases, I've already demonstrated that would mean your same momentum would have to do more than one thing. And you can't use momentum twice. If your momentum is conserved and it's making something else move, you throw this at something and it moves, then you can't still have the energy in this. You can't still have momentum in this because you exchanged it. You lost it. And that's the simple law. So anyway, in that context. So the brutal cycle said twice the force, twice the motion, 3 times the force, 3 times the motion. There's no evidence you require 4 times the force to make an object go twice as fast, or needing 9 times the force to make something go 3 times as fast. Blah, blah, blah. It's built into the argument. And so the person pretending, to be somebody other than Valerie Rousseau, but who is Valerie Rousseau, it seems obvious. Nobody could be this devoted a fan, because every single comment he makes is a Valerie Rousseau remark. Anyway, that's a big lie. So he's claiming it's a lie, even though every single interpretation I can find online of Newton's Latin-produced Principia, every single one says twice the motion, twice the force, twice the motion, 3 times the force, 3 times the motion. None of them translate it any different than that. So, and he's calling it a lie because we accept that translation that everybody uses. And you're a liar if you do that. Okay. Because he has his own personal translation that's different. So anyway, Rousseau proved, and it is routinely tested by students. So there's no routinely tested. There's no test showing any of this crap. The ballistic pendulum shows exactly what was stated, in the fact that you're not going to transfer anything called kinetic energy. You're just going to transfer momentum. And that's the absolute fact in every single routine ballistic pendulum experiment done every day. So it's just a lie. He's the big liar here. Okay, and it is routinely tested by students every day. Yes, and it fails the test every fucking day. That's the absolute fact. Every fucking day it fails the test. Alright, in their lab courses. So he links to his silly reinvention of new words in the Principia that aren't there. And they don't matter anyway, because the words don't change the meaning. The meaning is explicitly twice equals twice. Okay, 3 times equals 3 times. That's explicitly what Newton's saying. So again, they're trying to turn Newton into a Leibnizian. He clearly wasn't. It was his worst enemy in his life. He certainly would have pointed it out, later in his life if I made a huge mistake, in defining the second law by putting that sentence under it. No, he didn't change the frickin' sentence. Alright, so this idiot says, illusionist bed, something like that. Newton wrote the alteration or change of motion or momentum. So this isn't even the same sentence. This isn't even the same phrase. It's obviously you can't translate twice the motion into the alteration or change of the motion. You can't do that, okay? There's no possible way that's what Newton said in that sentence. So that's just absolute bullshit. Okay. So the change of mv, mass and velocity. So it's not and velocity, it's times velocity, but regardless. How now obviously you need time to change to take place. You need time for change to take place. The whole argument is that all of this stuff happens in units of time. That's what a second is a unit of time, and you're the ones trying to convert it into units of distance. You're trying to tell me that little s means meters. No, the little s means seconds. Okay, so change in velocity happens over change in time. Yeah, well, that's our argument, so you're going to lose there. So you might as well forget that one, because we win that argument, you lose that argument. And this is literally how acceleration is defined. So again, this argument that somehow this is literally acceleration. No, literally acceleration is absolute as a fact, just a change in your velocity. That's all it is. You're either adding velocity or subtracting velocity. That's all acceleration is. So it isn't made out of acceleration. It's made out of velocity and the change of velocity. So that's the absolute definition. So F equals change in motion is literally the same as F equals m. Okay, now they're doing mass times this fraction that you don't need. It's mass times velocity. I don't need to turn it into dp over dt. I don't need to do that because I already know the velocity word. So why would I waste my time saying dp over dt when I already have the word velocity to use right there? mv. That's what Newton actually said. The change in your mv, the change in your momentum, is the force. That's literally, that's the only fair literal translation of Newton. Okay, and it's literally the same as F equals ma. So it literally isn't. So you can lie some more. Obviously Newton didn't say it. He never wrote it. So you're the big liars. You have lied for hundreds of years now about what Newton said. Okay, because Newton's dead and he can't defend himself. So you can lie all you want about him. But it just shows that you have absolutely no scientifically integrity. Who cares about science would lie about what Isaac Newton believed and said, right? I mean, that's just proving you don't give a shit about the truth or the integrity of science if you're going to lie about the greatest scientist in the history of mankind, the man who devoted his entire life to discovering truth. And here you are putting words in his mouth he didn't say. I mean, it's disgusting. All right, I don't see how you're getting this simple. I don't see how you're not getting this simple logical derivation because I don't need it. The words are simple. Twice the force, twice the motion. That's what he said. 3 times the force, 3 times the motion. That's what he said. That's really simple. And the simple fact is you're not disputing anything here. Where have you fixed this problem? Where have you explained that the momentum is nothing and the kinetic energy is real? Because that's really your argument. You're saying kinetic energy is real energy and momentum is just a word, that people use that doesn't mean anything. Yeah. No. This one's the one that's always conserved, momentum. This is the one that always fails, okay, and is just synthetic and made up. You just make it up a number. You say, every time you exchange between different masses, you're going to fail to conserve kinetic energy. And the only time you can conserve the kinetic energy is to have a one mass hit a one mass. If you hit a one mass into a half mass or a mass and a half, then you're going to fail to conserve the kinetic energy. Now, you know that's the truth. It happens every frickin' time. And here you are talking shit to me, trying to tell me, okay, that I'm supposed to, you're wondering, how could I not believe your silly fable when, yes, your silly fable always fails. It fails every single one of these tests. It's never conserved for real, and since it's never in a measured experiment conserved. So they never measure heat. If they say, oh, we lost it to heat, they never measure it. So it's never the truth. And in this case, it's so obvious that what are you going to say? Where is the kinetic energy lost in this case? There's no place to lose it to. Where is it? Yeah, no, it can't be missing somewhere. There's nowhere for it to be missing. The rest of the kinetic energy going this way, where is it? It's not in the rocket. Then where the hell is it? And they have no explanation. Where it is nowhere because it never existed in the first place. It was from the very beginning. Hobgoblin juice. All right, we'll see if we can find any other silly comments by silly people. Alright, I found the spot, I think, where we left off, where I provided an explanation for where the motion is inside of a battery. So the motion is between the electrons. That's what you're creating. You're compressing electrons in a battery. You're putting a whole bunch of extra ones so they're all closer together. And that closer together means the stuff bouncing between them, alright, is bouncing, hitting surfaces more often. It's more energetic. For that reason, and therefore the pressure is higher, and the electrons wish to be further apart, and so they're seeking to be in an environment where they can spread that pressure, that is, give it to some other object so they can move further apart, and that's all that's taking place. Alright, so the Rousseau fake sock account, yeah, well, so we'll keep saying that's what it is, but it's just, realistically that's what it is. And there are some other comments here, so this is that'll take me a little while. All right, ignorant statement, question marked. Certainly not. Yes, it is. It's just ignorant of a physicist to argue that somehow there isn't motion inside of a battery. Yes, lots of motion inside of a battery. If there's a steel girder holding up a 10-ton weight, there's lots of stress in the steel. The steel isn't having fun. Yeah, okay. All right. It is a statement to make you realize the absurdity of your claim. So that's a meaningless pile of nothing sentence. You didn't answer the question. Certainly the question was answered. He said, which direction? He said, it doesn't matter the direction. I can put the wires anywhere, and I can make the spark go this way. I can make the spark go that way. I can make the spark go that way. I can make the spark go in any direction. So just bullshit. Your question wasn't answered. It was answered, you lying sack of shit. All right. Also, let me add this one. You're just going to lie some more. What's the direction of the momentum stored in the battery? You already did this. The question was already clearly answered. The battery is a trap. The motion is moving in all directions between electrons. Electrons are oriented to each other this way. They're oriented to each other this way. They're going this way. They're going this way. There's all kinds of ways the energy is moving inside of the battery. And it's just like the balloon. The balloon has energy moving in all directions, and you can just open a hole in one direction and let the energy out. Duh, in one direction. Oh, amazing bullshit. So what a liar. I mean, you bother answering the question, and he just does this nothing response. All right, so some other guy said this shit, and so I'll go back to some more Rousseau stuff. So this idiot says, all right, he quotes, clearly voltage is understood as pressure between electrons, right? This is perfectly rational stuff. I think most physicists understand that that pressure is created by some kind of photonic energy. So I would argue it's photon quanta. It's pieces of a photon. It's not actual photons. All right, so anyway, he says, why are you appealing to physicists? Why can't I? Is anybody arguing that every bit of physics is wrong? That everything looked at under a microscope or anything, any test ever done, that physicists lie about it? No, that's not the argument, retard. The argument is about one specific decision. That is, they heard this silly fable about a living force and they believed it. A silly fable about a living force. That was a mistake because they believed a silly thing. Ugh. Anyway. If you think they're all wrong. So again, just a lie about they're not wrong about everything. Oh, shit. I mean, this is just such a crap as a response. You give them a clear paradox to explain, and they won't go anywhere near it. And they're scientists, and they're just cowards. It's what's proven every fucking time. They won't go anywhere near the actual fucking subject. All right. You are just making things up. Oh, ridiculous. I'm saying you're making things up. You're telling me I have to believe in something you can't show me a shred of evidence defending. Amazing bullshit. I'm making it up, yet you have the theory that you can't produce a single shred of competent, credible fucking evidence demonstrating it has anything to do with reality. What duplicity. because it's absolutely not what physicists say at all. Okay, so he's saying that physicists don't believe there's a real force between electrons. They're repelling each other because of a force. They're not repelling each other because of some ESP bullshit. All right, nothing you said is remotely like what mainstream physics is like. Well, whatever mainstream physics is like, I guess doesn't matter. I'm arguing clearly that there is a force between electrons. That is, they are sending signals to each other that move at the speed of light, and that's a clear fact. I'm saying I think most physicists know this because they know they can arrange electrons and they can move them very quickly, and they're not able to communicate with each other, and so you can move them easily if you move them quickly. So they know all of this stuff, jackass. So you're saying they don't believe it, but I think they do. So go ahead and now disagree with all of them in whatever this is and contradict your own appeal to authority. So there was no appeal to authority. I was just saying, can we agree on a premise? So you're saying we can't agree on the premise. Okay, that basically there is a force between electrons, and that's what the high voltage means. That's what the higher pressure means, is the electrons are closer to each other, and the force is more intense the closer they get to each other. You're saying physicists don't believe that. I'm saying I know physicists believe that. That's exactly how they understand it. The electrons get close to each other, the force intensifies between them. So when you put a bunch of electrons in one little smaller location and they're more dense and more close to each other, they're under higher pressure. That's a simple argument. You're saying that's not true. I'm saying I think most physicists know that's true. But it doesn't matter. So go ahead and tell me most physicists can't even figure out that. So they don't even understand voltage. They don't even understand what electrical pressure means. Okay, fine. They're stupid there too. So go ahead. Those are your two choices. Either you concede the simple argument that, yes, pressure probably has something to do with a force, okay, and fine, or say, no, well, we're going to reject that too and pretend pressure isn't anything real. It's not created by any kind of real thing. It's just a fake thing, some sort of other hobgoblin juice. All right, so you're going from, whatever, pixies to hobgoblins. Yeah, okay. So that's your choice, fuckhead. Alright, what a stupid answer. Alright, so, Brutal Cycle, who does write some good stuff, did respond. Oh yeah, this is my comment. Okay, so this is the one where I explained, again, trying to explain to this moron how the energy moves in a battery. Okay, so I said it's like asking the direction of the fish in a school. From moment to moment, the direction changes. So from moment to moment, a fish in a school of fish could be going this way, could be going that way, could be going that way, but the school doesn't go any way. So obviously those actions are all, he turns left, the other one turns right. They don't cancel anything. They counter each other. You know, force, counter force. There is no cancellation. There's no force undone. Every force has to be, countered with a force. But the net direction of the whole school can have no vector. Just like air in the cylinder, each particle has a vector. So I won't go through this because I've already read all this. But, it's a really interesting subject. It's really easy to compare it to something like, just little ball bearings in a reflective thing, or a photon inside a perfect mirror. So if I could make a perfect mirror, and shoot a photon in it, you could understand the photon will essentially go everywhere. He'll hit every surface eventually. And so if I made a hole somewhere, eventually the photon will go out that hole. And I'll have converted the direction in all directions into just one direction. But the photon always had a direction. It was never a non-vector. It was always a vector, and the vector just constantly changes. So that's the nature of a trap. You can create a trap, put something in it, and the thing can have any motion in any direction, and you're just waiting to say which way you're going to let it out. And that's which direction it'll be going, the direction you decide to let it out in. Alright, so you can change direction for free is essentially the argument. Alright. So the creepy lying sack of human garbage says... he quotes, but the net direction of the whole school can have no vector. So obviously the net direction of the school of fish doesn't have to be moving, for all of the fish to have a vector. So we agree that the battery has no momentum. No, we don't agree. There's clearly momentum. Each fish has a ton of momentum. Each fish is a mass moving. So where do we agree there's no momentum? Preposterous, right? We're analyzing. You're saying the battery obviously doesn't have momentum going somewhere as a physical object. It has no linear momentum. The simple argument is that the electrons certainly do. Yeah, the electrons have plenty of momentum. All right. According to your guru, momentum equals energy. Yeah, momentum is the only thing in the universe that causes motion. That's what the real truth is. So if we're going to have a word called energy, which implies activity, I'm going to argue that all activity, anything moving in the universe, is a mass moving a velocity, and that's all it is. All right. Thus, the battery has no energy either. So just lies. I mean, obviously, that's not what was stated. That wasn't in the explanation. So again, it's a waste of time to indulge them in their silly, let's change the subject. So he dramatically changed the subject from this simple example that you didn't conserve your kinetic energy and you don't explain where it is. You're missing 1,000,000 joules of energy. Where is the missing 1,000,000 joules? Instead of explaining that, right, he's doing this. And you waste your time explaining how a battery works, and then he just ignores the explanation. All right. So according to your guru, the energy magically appears out of nowhere. So that's exactly what I said, right? That it appears out of nowhere. No, that's exactly not what I said. I explained exactly what the energy is being caused by, and that is the compression. That is the closeness of the electrons. Okay, we plug the battery to a toy car and it starts moving straight. Well done, crackpot. So, again, where did he pay any attention to the actual description provided? None. All right, so this just shows this is a fucking physics professor. So a physics professor converts this plain text explaining exactly what voltage is, which is pressure between electrons, and the pressure is made out of energy bouncing back and forth between the electrons. Tons of energy is in the battery. Just as tons of energy is in every single atom. That's how you can make a nuclear bomb, is because there's tons of energy inside the atoms, because there's lots of force bits moving in all kinds of directions, creating pressure. So he's ignoring the fundamentals of atomic theory. And he's a physics fucking professor. Disgusting. All right, so then he says, by the way, if you think physics is wrong... No, that's the whole point, right? We're saying right here, this theory is wrong. mv squared is wrong. V squared is a silly concept. The whole idea of squaring a fucking velocity is retarded. It's a linear thing. You can't fucking square it. You can't make a square of velocity, and you certainly can't make a cube of velocity. It's geometric nonsense. So right on its face, you should have some realization it can't be true. And I'm just clearly pointing out that you have absolutely zero experimental evidence, and for every one of these dualities, you will not provide a single shred of reasoning to explain where the 1,000,000 missing joules is. Okay, why don't you give up on all technology? So again, this is just such crap. Like somehow all technology was invented by quantum theory. No, it wasn't. You don't need wave theory. You don't need quantum theory. You don't need entanglement. You don't need any of this horse shit to invent. Because I was involved in inventing. I know how it works. It's called trial and error. All right, that's why it took 20 years to make a blue LED, because it wasn't about theory, it was about trial and error. Give up on all technologies and stem from it. Oh, whatever. Start with the device you're using to post your stupid comments. So again, they're saying computers were invented by entanglement. No, they weren't. Yeah, it's just such a lie. Oh, I guess I hate this fact that they can get away with such lies. What does this little symbol mean? Well, I won't play with it. Probably break something. All right. So this moron says, let's see, Maxim Hart. Eek. It's insane, isn't it? Whoever this, so they're going to say, the guy's name who's posting these perfectly rational arguments that they have no argument response to. They haven't been able to provide any evidence, not a single link to a credible experiment. and yet they're just going to try to mock the person. Okay. We'll use appeal to physicists when it's convenient. No, you use it, and it wasn't an appeal. It was an appeal to an axiom, an agreeable axiom. We're just trying to establish that voltage is pressure between electrons, and that the pressure has to be made out of something. I mean, you're saying it doesn't have to be made out of something. Okay, so forget it. We won't agree that the pressure has to be made by something, but we can't deny that physicists call it voltage as pressure. That's exactly how they analogize it. I was just trying to shore up that argument that, well, batteries aren't that hard to understand once you understand the electrons are compressed and there's increased pressure between them. Once you understand that, then you know where the extra energy is. Obviously, it's more energy if there's more pressure. Do you get it? Stuff can move away when there's higher pressure. That's all the argument was for, you moron. It's not an appeal to authority. It's an appeal to reason. Can we agree on some foundational facts? And obviously, you can't agree on anything rational. Okay. Well, getting everything they say wrong. I didn't say physicists said a damn thing here, so that's just a lie. And I just said I think most physicists understand electron pressure as the force between the electrons, is the increase in the pressure. I'm just trying to explain to you what's pressurized. That the electrons aren't the little bits. The little bits are the pressure between the electrons. Okay, and then in the same thread, they say they are all wrong anyway. So that's a lie. So again, it's a simple enough argument. They can't, right? So they won't tell us where the 1,000,000 joules is missing, where it is. So we have 1,000,000 joules coming out. We're only going to have 10 joules going that way. So where's the missing joules? Where are they? They're not going to tell us. All right. So, he can't even be consistent in his own worldview, which basically makes this entire discussion pointless. Well, it's pointless because you're clearly a belligerent idiot. Because, frankly, none of this, you're not even on the subject. You're not even close to the subject. And then you're arguing something that's basically water is wet simple. You know, the fact that voltage is pressure. And you're just trying to explain that as you increase the voltage in a battery, okay, you're increasing pressure in the battery. Brother. I mean, just obnoxiously. I mean, they're just belligerently moronic. You know, they can't stay on the subject, and these are science defenders. So again, you'd expect this kind of crap from religious kooks. But these are educated people just talking like complete assholes for no good reason. To defend a nonsense theory that has, I mean, again, if they knew the history, they would be embarrassed that they're falling for a religious concept. Leibniz was an insanely religious kook. I mean, he was a religious, super mega religious nut. And that's the physics you're obeying, you're following. It makes you look ridiculous. I mean, Leibniz was more like a one of these conservative loop-de-doo, what do you call them, New Age Christians, whatever they are, the nutters in the South. He wasn't a Mendel. He wasn't some monk who didn't really believe in God, but just believed in being nice. He wasn't that kind of Christian. He was the fanatic, nutty kind. And that's who you're following, asshole. That's whose bandwagon, you're waving flags on, moron. Ugh, God, these people are so fucking stupid. Alright, so I think that's up to date on this subject. I think, I can only guess because I'm not getting updates, so, I don't have that benefit. But again, no real arguments dealing with the real subject. Nothing. Nothing explaining how the most simple experiment you can do in space, and you want to move an object in space, and kinetic energy theory will do you absolutely, it'll be useless. It will never give you an answer that's right regarding what you transfer. You'll never transfer the kinetic energy, ever. Okay, and all you'll ever transfer is momentum. Now, the only example where you could say, okay, maybe you could transfer the kinetic energy if I had this rocket hit another rocket that was already moving, you know, by some velocity that they got somewhere else. And they were going as, then kinetic energy can be conserved because guess what? You'll just make up fake kinetic energy in and fake kinetic energy out. But in all other cases where you actually have to do a transfer, that is, you actually have to convert the energy to put it in the new object. You have to convert nickels into dimes or pennies into quarters. In every single case, kinetic energy will completely fail and you will not be able to convert your money. And the only thing you'll convert reliably every single time is momentum. Every single time the momentum conversion works. Every single time the kinetic energy conversion fails. And I have to say this year after year to people who are supposed to be respecters of the truth and respecters of the scientific method and respecters of reasoning and logic. And then yes. Yeah, it's pretty pathetic. All right, so we have a couple of comments, so I might as well do a comment and see what I have to do here. That, right? That worked. Oh, we still have the Rousseau drawing. Yeah, his fake experiment. Oh, yeah. Hilarious. Anyway, so he's on the line, right? I mean, physicist Michael said he was due the big Newton's cradle, never did it. And now we have another physicist, says he's going to do something, prove it, get it over with, save the world from any further arguments ever again by doing a nice, credible experiment and demonstrate that, yes, it takes 9 rubber bands to make something go 3 times as fast. No, it doesn't. Anyway, so this is the Makura, I guess that's what it is, 50. You can hear me, right? Probably. Anyway, you've always been right about how religious physics is. Yeah, it's just sad. And I didn't realize it. I mean, like I said, I was, I didn't get into this because I had something against science. I got into this because of, something just seemed really wrong. And then the more I scratched, the wronger everything got. I mean, the first thing was the double slit. That was the first. Fuck you. I mean, it goes through both slits. That's just silly. It's entangled? Oh, that's silly. This is all silly shit. And I already understood that photons were rays. I mean, I already, it doesn't make any sense. Whatever a wave is, how does it know how to wave? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And I didn't think space was full of some medium, so I knew it wasn't made out of jello. So that couldn't make sense. There's people who think like space is actually made out of electrons and positrons and stuff. Like, how the fuck could planets move through a field of positrons? It's just retarded. But anyway, anyways, finish the comment, Gary. Okay. But I'm surprised as everybody else in the sense that, you just keep scratching and everything you scratch at, you find out, oh, they made that shit up. Oh, they made that shit up. And there ain't much real here. It's so much of it is, well, you could stop at Newton, and that's the last time they did something clever. And since Newton, they haven't done anything clever. Nothing. Okay. They use the same talking points as religious kooks do. The theology comment is so overused as a attempt to counter-argue technology. Oh, the technology argument. Yes, that somehow all technology was invented by this silly woo stuff. It's just such. I mean, I existed when integrated circuits were invented. When we went from transistors to integrated circuits, I existed during that period in history. I read the little pamphlets and books that were distributed explaining it. And it had nothing to do with quantum mechanics. It just had to do with doping chemical materials to make them create ionic surfaces. And that was it. So all this is such a lie that all of this has to do with this woo science. All right, ridiculous. You're right. Your argument highlights the fact that momentum can be accounted for and kinetic energy can't. And it's in all circumstances. Again, they keep claiming that, oh, this is only in inelastic collisions that kinetic energy goes all south. No, it goes south in regular experiments because it doesn't take 25 times the fuel to go 5 times as fast. So their made up numbers of energy going in is just useless. So the rocket proves it in a way because there's no inelasticness or elasticness. It's just a simple Newton's third law experiment where you're going to say, I'm going to shoot some energy this way and I'm going to get the equal and opposite reaction that way. And it's clearly not going to obey the third law. So the kinetic energy has nothing to do with obeying the third law. So why is there a third law? If energy doesn't have to obey the law, what does? And what's the point, right? It's like us passing fucking laws that only that only squirrels have to obey. Why would people pass laws that only squirrels have to obey? That doesn't make any sense. It's ridiculous. Anyway, it's straightforward and problematic, but for stupid reasons, people want fucking magical explanations. I don't know if it's about people. I don't know what it is about. Yeah, it is hard to figure out. Okay, I gotta say, I just don't know. I mean, yes, dumb, ignorant masses, but I don't even know why dumb, ignorant masses would want these wooey answers to questions. Why the fuck would this appeal to them, this wishing on star kind of crap? It's just so... It's so fake and phony, and obviously fake and phony. Oh, I'm just saying, it just seems so creepy to me. And I guess that's why I'm the one doing this advocacy on the subject, is because, wow, all this creepy, wooey, cruddy answers are so bad. I mean, this believing in, prancing Santa Clauses. This is like watching it's like Santa Claus in tights, doing Nutcracker. I mean, it's so preposterously gay that you're like, no, come on. I don't mean gay in a negative way. I just mean it's just so flamboyantly silly and self-indulgent and ludicrous. And who the fuck could that appeal to? Who the fuck could it appeal to? I just don't get it. I'd almost argue that was, that Hunger Games movie. It just didn't work for me at all because it was like, the fancy people were so preposterously silly. And it was just like, what the hell? Well, I wouldn't hang out with these assholes. I mean, this would be the silliest place in the world. What the hell are these people good for? I mean, it was, just didn't make any sense at all. But, nothing the world does makes any sense. I don't get the plots of anything. I don't understand anything. Can't stand it here. The whole smell of this planet's just getting worse and worse. So, tough luck, Gary. yeah. But anyway, I can just do my part, which is to be a reasonable person in an unreasonable circumstance. And that's all I can do. So, I'll do my best. And that's all I can do. So, back to the story so far. And such. They're not. They're just belligerent weasels defending absolute shit because they have a boner for it. Ugh. Puke. Alright, so I'm back. So I'm on a different Reddit, someplace in some other completely different subject where this beneficial type guy is typing crap about me. And so I just thought, about the physics argument. So I just thought I'd read some of this shit. And this really is shit. And, it just deserves to be read. It deserves to be responded to because this just shows what liars these people are. It's disgusting. Anyway, his main claim is that what he calls momentum is energy. So, yes, duh. Note that and it's not my, I suppose the fact that there is no kinetic energy is the main claim. So, I mean, there's no such thing as v squared being a reasonable concept. Note that he defines momentum as mass times speed. No, I don't, but whatever. Whereas in real physics, it's mass times velocity. So there's nowhere you're going to find anywhere where I use the word speed. So that's just a lie. I mean, it's just a silly lie. I always use the word velocity. I never use the word speed. In fact, he says momentum is weight, pressure, heat, force. Yes, it's all the same thing. Anything moving is momentum. So if there's a thing and it's moving, then there's momentum in the universe. Duh, 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 duh. Okay, everything is momentum. Yes, he is all over the place. No, it's not. Oh, that's all over the place. A direct statement saying that, yes, Things moving is momentum. Yes. Things means it has to have mass. Okay. Often contradicts himself. Where? There's no contradiction. So just what a little lying weasel. And can't do any math. So again, yes, I can do math. I don't do math that doesn't make any sense. I don't see what the point of saying per second is, and I certainly don't see this point in saying 9.8 meters per second squared when Newton didn't say it. It ain't how it happens. It's not real. It's fake. It's a lie. It's a distortion. It's stupid. When it is in fact 9.8 meters of extra velocity per 1 second units. You don't get it in any other second units, you get it in 1 second units. That's what Galileo discovered. So you're the ones who are pathetic liars who are lying about what Newton, Galileo, and Descartes actually observed, you motherfucking liar. So anyway, so it is difficult to say what some concrete implications of his physics are. Yeah, the concrete implications is there's no magical, all the fake physics that they have done for the last 100 years, pretending that all of these little particles have all of this insane amounts of energy. So all their discovery of the 400 silly particles they've invented all don't exist, because they only exist because they keep thinking little things going fast do a whole bunch of extra momentum transfers, and they don't do extra momentum transfers. They can't transfer free momentum. Free momentum doesn't happen, moron. Okay, anyway. But there are some. Anyway, he thinks the relationship between velocity and energy is linear. So he says it takes twice the energy to move something twice as fast. So it's just exactly what Newton said. So this fucking piece of human garbage, okay, knows I've said this over and over again. You know, that Newton says right under the second law, twice the force, twice the motion, 3 times the force, 3 times the motion. That's exactly what I'm saying. And, you know, he's going to mock that. And yet it's the words right under the second law, written by Isaac Newton. What a piece of shit you are. Okay. Twice as fast from rest. And so then he says, in reality, the relationship is quadratic. It takes 4 times the energy to move something to move twice as fast. So it's not what Newton said, clearly, and there's absolutely zero evidence this piece of shit nonsense is true. So he actually believes it takes 25 times the fuel to go 5 times as fast. Doesn't happen anywhere on Earth. There's no generator on Earth where you spin it 5 times as fast and it makes 25 times the electricity. This shit doesn't happen anywhere in this observable universe, and yet this lying sack of goddamn garbage, okay, will imply that he knows it does by some magical evidence that doesn't exist. It's just so pathetic. All right, so the doxing. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. I have to sit there and you can't read comments because they have to dox me. It's just so ridiculous. All right. He disagrees with the results of collisions between 2 bodies. So obviously I disagree with shitty experiments. Yes, well done experiments, good. Bad experiments, bad. All right, this is because in reality you can increase the total mass, speed of the object in a collision. So somehow, what does that even mean? This is because in reality you can increase the total mass. What does that mean? Times speed. Oh, okay. Mass times speed. Who uses this concept of whatever mass times speed is? Who does this? Of objects in collision. That doesn't make any sense. Well, anyway, you can't make free momentum, but Gary can't accept this because he claims mass times speed is energy. So I don't even understand why somebody's using the word speed. Nobody does this. Everybody uses the word velocity. And he wants to conserve that. I'm saying momentum is energy, yes, duh, and there's no quadratic increase. There's no fake v squared notion. It never existed. Leibniz never proved it. No one's ever shown it in the history of mankind. It's a fucking fable. That's the absolute factual evidence demonstrates. It's a fable. On the other hand, his physics can't predict what happens in collisions, so that's a lie. Just an absolute lie. All right, he's a, I don't even know what this is, combination of low intellect and narcissism. And look at you. Look at all this time you're wasting making these insipidly silly, arrogant proclamations about reality that you have no evidence for. and you're going to say I'm the minimal character. Well, it seems like you must be the minimal character, as you're wasting your time debunking somebody who's supposed to be this stupid narcissist, this ignorant narcissist. How could this ignorant narcissist be so much more persuasive than you are? Yeah. Anyway, he has been doing physics video more than a decade, and he hasn't learned even the most basic stuff. No, what I've learned is that you people suck. That you're a lying sack of the smelliest goddamn human garbage ever. I'll bet you a thousand. I'll bet you $10,000. Let's have a lie detector test, okay, and see if you can survive interrogation, and see who's the honest player here. Because I don't think you really believe it takes 25 times the fuel to move something 5 times as fast. I don't believe you're that fucking stupid. All right, yet he thinks he is the only one who really gets it. Yeah, well, I'm obviously getting something you can't get, which is integrity. I have a big pile of it. You have zero. Let's see, there are people who tend to debate him and have made experimental demonstrations, but he is beyond help. So what we know that I've already demonstrated that we had a physics professor cheat a simple experiment. He just had to put 2 rubber bands on something and make it move, and he couldn't even do it honestly. And he certainly couldn't do it with more than one trial. So, I mean, it's just clear evidence that they have to cheat something as simple as that. A simple fucking experiment, that's simple, and they had to cheat. So that's what I have proven, demonstrated, over and over again, that they're liars, compulsive liars. Alright, so we do have a response to this one silly comment on the takes 25 times the fuel to go 5 times as fast post. And so a silly person says, this has been explained to flat earth science hundreds of times. So where in flat earth are they arguing that kinetic energy is a nonsense theory? I've never seen a flat earther argue against kinetic energy, ever. I know I don't watch too many flat earthers, I have to admit, but I've never seen them make an argument against kinetic energy. So it's just amazing that it would bring this up. Why are you enabling a continuation of this nonsense? So what nonsense? The merely asking you to show evidence of something you claim happens, right? So all this thing does is ask you to show us evidence that takes 25 times the fuel to go 5 times as fast, or 16 times the fuel to go 4 times as fast, or 9 times the fuel to go 3 times as fast. We're just saying, come on. If it happens every day, you should be able to show us a fucking experimental piece of evidence. So why don't you do that? Anyway. So Brutal Cycles replies, it's also been explained thousands of times it doesn't take 25 times the force, springs, to make something move 5 times as fast, or velocity. You need evidence for this claim. You're required, if you're going to claim something is true, is to give us reasoning or evidence. You have to give us logic or evidence demonstrating it. And there's no reasoning, there's no logic. It doesn't make any sense at all to say it because it doesn't happen. All right, so then this idiot, the cardiographer guy who's just a pathetic one-sentence liar all the time, fuel consumption doesn't scale linearly with energy dissipation. Well, what does that have to do with anything? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, obviously fuel consumption has to scale with work. So all you're saying is just show me the work done. Either the work creates heat, or the work creates bent things, or the work creates something. It has to grow somewhere. You can't claim this linear doesn't scale. No, it has to be conserved, jackass. So we're just asking you to show us where you conserve this kinetic energy. Because obviously you're not conserving it. Obviously it's made up and fake because there is no conservation, and the momentum is perfectly conserved. It makes perfect sense that 5 times the fuel makes something go 5 times as fast. It makes 0 sense that 25 times the fuel is used to go 5 times as fast, because 5 times as fast is only 5 times the ability to do work. Because you'll never show it doing 25 times the work. Ugh, so they're just such liars. So anyway. So far, not much of an argument on this this argument. I mean, this is the simplest argument. You know, can anyone link to good, credible physical evidence that it takes 1 spring to go 1 unit of velocity and 25 springs to go 5 units of velocity? Is there any evidence on this planet indicating that is true? And the fact is they won't just simply say, no, I can't produce the evidence. I wish I could because I think you're wrong, but I can't produce the evidence because, yes, it obviously doesn't exist. They can't be honest and just admit, no, I can't produce the evidence. You have to believe me because I say so. I can't show you so. They can't just be honest and say that's what they're really saying, is that I'm not allowed to see it. I have to just believe it because they say so. Which is pathetic, frankly. All right, so we've done the 12 things, 7 thing. Yeah, we did that. And 46, I think we're all done, caught up with the other subjects. So we'll just save more arguments for later. Yeah, okay. So I'll wait till there's some other comments and such. Alright, should be back. So we're back on the subject of the 25 times the fuel to go 5 times as fast subject, or 16 times the fuel to go 4 times as fast, or the 9 times the fuel to go 3 times as fast subject, for which there has never ever been shown anything called evidence of anything like that being true. Alright, and so they just keep lying, so I'm just going to point out the lie here. So anyway, it says some asshole got deleted for being off the subject. He says everything I wrote in my comment was proverbially true, and it's not off the subject. Of course, this topic is one subject. It asks direct questions more than once. It asks the same type of question. Can you produce any evidence showing it doing 25 times the fuel to go 5 times as fast, or can you show 5 times the velocity doing 25 times the work? You can't show that evidence. That's the absolute fact, and you're just a liar. So anyway, the only reason why you deleted it is because you like him and you're a coward. No, the only reason why he deleted it is because, likewise, it's been said over and over again, I don't have any responsibility to undo your lies. Your obligation is to make a physics argument on the subject of this post. And you're just demonstrating you can't do that. That's what you're demonstrating clearly to any reasonable person. So you're saying you're making an argument that's going to persuade the reasonable. I'm just arguing, no, it's not. Okay. And it's just demonstrating that you people cheat. That's all you can do is cheat, because you can't stay on the subject of the post. And so he says all you can do is attack the messenger, but not the message. Okay, so he says, my post was not an attack. Well, of course it was. It was a statement of fact and explains, among other things. So see, there's no other thing to explain except this one subject. That Gary has had these questions answered over and over. And there is no evidence that any of that has taken place. So again, just a stupid, idiotic lie. It's a waste of time to keep answering that. There's no answer. You have to show evidence. There's no answer except showing evidence. Showing an experiment producing the outcome you say happens millions of times a day. Millions of times a day you say this 5 times, 25 times the fuel thing happens to make 5 times the velocity. Well, show us one example of it happening, you pathetic liar. Okay, so I'll go back to the regular thread because there's a bigger comment that might be worth reading. Who knows? All right, so that was his other comment was deleted, and so this was another one. So it's been explained thousands of times. It doesn't take 25 times the force springs to make something move 5 times as fast for velocity. You need evidence for this claim. So again, it hasn't been explained thousands of times. All right. And so this guy is called IllusionistBad or whatever it is. No amount of evidence will ever convince you. So again, where has there been any amount of evidence? I mean, of any of these circumstances. Like it's been pointed out, look, springs aren't very reliable. You might be able to fudge the twice the velocity 4 times the motion, but you're not going to be able to fudge the 3 times 9. The 9 times the fuel to go 3 times as fast. You can't fudge that one. Or 3 times as fast makes 9 times the work. You can't fudge that one, so let's see that one. And the fact is you won't do the honest thing and just admit there's no physical evidence on this earth. NASA hasn't produced it. The Mythbusters haven't produced it. Nobody on this planet has produced any evidence that that fucking fact is a fact. That your claimed fact is a fucking fact. And the fact that you won't admit that there's no fucking evidence just makes you a pathetic liar. All right. Literally every experiment that proves. So there's no every experiment. This is just such a lie. Where are your links to your fucking experiment? All you have is Brozosian bullshit, okay? You have no physics experiment conducted by any credible physicist that proves this garbage to be true. So you're just liars, okay? That you have produced evidence. You have produced nothing. All right, you ain't Gary wrong has been rejected. It hasn't been rejected. It's been properly debunked as shit. Okay, but you haven't produced any quality, competent, reasonable evidence. Yeah, continuing. So no matter who does it, so there's no who does it, in what way, it hasn't been done in any ways, it has been done, and how many times it's been repeated with consistent results. So just a lie. There's just nothing has demonstrated this simple argument, okay, of this quadratic increase in energy produced or in fuel required. So it's just a fucking goddamn lie. That's all they can do, is keep lying. This is what science defenders do. They lie compulsively. Okay. Yes, there exists not a single video on the internet where they show specifically that it requires 25 times the energy to go 5 times as fast. So he's conceding the argument. Okay, then we're done conversating about it, because frankly, if it happens a million times a day and in 350 fucking goddamn years you can't videotape it, then you have no right to force me to believe it. God damn. You can't show it, but I must believe. Alright, it's just so ridiculous. However, we have all these other experiments. There's no other experiments, okay, that verify kinetic energy predictions time and time again. So every other experiment, the lever proves it. They have no lever experiment. They have no pulley experiment. They have no ballistic pendulum experiment. They have no water hose experiment. They have no gear experiment. They have no experiment ever verifying this lie. Oh, it's just disgusting. All right, so here he puts this shit down as if these are proven. So Newton's cradle, not done by any physicist beyond Dispar. So he has no video of this experiment ever conducted by anybody other than Dispar the liar. Okay. Newton's cradle, elastic collisions with unequal masses. Well, where's your experiment? Show it to me. Show me the experiment where they timed anything or did anything to prove it. Show it. Repeated at least a dozen times by one person with a huge incentive, okay, who's not an unbiased scientist, okay, who's clearly a biased person. Each time it proves momentum is not energy. No, it doesn't prove anything because it's garbage. Filmed from silly angles with non-round objects suspended by very poor mechanisms for which he can't even put much energy into the pendulums. So he's not even putting any energy in because he's, shabbily glued his little pieces on. And we can't allow them to hit each other with any real energy. So that's a lie. Launching a 1 and 2 mass, the 4-point ratios, no, it doesn't show up consistently. What Brozo found is that it doesn't show up at all, in the sense that 19 and 11 is not exactly 1.4 to 1. So obviously not even close. So half the mass goes just about twice as fast, almost twice as fast. So lie some more. All right, launching a mass with 1 and 2 units of energy. So where was this experiment done? Oh yeah, that's right, nowhere. Okay, so never mind that one. Dropping 1 mass and 2 mass and 4 mass. So this one was done, yes, and it's done by putting a steel rod and putting a bunch of duct taped together weights on the steel rod, and as they drop the weight, you can hear it going. Tons of friction. So yeah, no, we don't know what this result was, and they're using a little tiny spring, so they're smashing 4 pounds of weight on a spring this big. Yeah, that's a great experiment. That sounds frankly a little bit implausible as an experiment. All right, lever launcher. So this is the one where the evidence is decisive. Okay, we have the Brozo evidence, decisive evidence, repeated several times by who, where? And where did the 1.4 result happen? Didn't happen in any of the experiments. So just lie some more. There's absolutely no experiment that came out with 1.4. So that's just a fucking lie. All right. Gary's own lever launcher, however, proved him wrong when analyzing the velocities. No, it didn't. So again, there was no analyzing that was done in any reasonable way again. Let's see. Gary was simply looked at it, assumed obviously went twice as fast. I didn't just assume obviously it went twice as fast. What I did was watch how far it went, and how far it went is proportional in the sense that as long as you understand it's going higher, the further out it goes higher, and the less far it goes, the more flat the pendulum is. So I did a very long pendulum, 8 feet long, and so obviously the results had a very large flat part. So obviously bullshit, another lie. And that's all they have though. See, they can't produce a real experiment. So we had to resort to going to my experiment, which I didn't claim it was proof of anything. I just claimed it looks pretty bad for your side, frankly. It looked like a verification of, frankly, Brozo's experiment in terms of the numbers. Alright, should be back. I think, yeah. There I am. And such. So, see if there's more comments here. Not much, but, well, you know, it's more than nothing. Yeah, more than nothing is something. Let's see. Highlight the fact momentum can be accounted for, kinetic, or you can't. Straightforward. Okay, we already did that. I have learned more from your physics videos than I did in middle school, high school, and college. So have I. I mean, you know, frankly, I didn't realize physics said all the nutty things it said. So again, I didn't realize the two-slit experiment. I'd heard of it in high school. We were making cloud chambers in 7th, 8th grade. Yeah, 8th grade. And so I had some good physics education, frankly. And on my own, I did like Time Life books. I did have books on energy and magnetism and all that shit. But yeah, I had no real clue that they had these little secret dummy explanations, because those books really didn't say all this wooey shit. They said things like, yes, it's 9.8 meters per second, per 1 second of change for gravity. No notion of per second or per second squared. That wasn't anything I was taught. So anyway, but all these subjects had this nuance where I had no idea they made up all these silly stories. Like the Stern-Gerlach experiment has something to do with the magnetic moment of an electron. An electron is a monopole charge. It's purely negative, and that's all it is. It doesn't do anything else but produce negative charge. It doesn't have any other character. It's not a dipole. I don't know why people can think of an electron as a dipole. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, those instructions did physics for a paycheck. You do it to convey a rational interpretation of how. Yes, well, I do it because I wanted the explanation. I wanted to understand it, and I knew it wasn't this fairy crap. I knew it's not pixies, hobgoblins, ESP part. I know those answers are garbage because they're ridiculously silly. Reality functions. Yes, I miss my 5 minutes of fame. I miss my. Oh, you miss being. Yeah. Oh, yes. Your room is destroyed. Well, like I say, I am going to fight for your room. So it's just a fact that if Reddit isn't going to restore our, we deserve to be restored to our original condition. We have been raped, by their silly moderators. We deserve to have our credibility restored. We didn't do anything wrong. It's just an absolute fact. We committed no crime. We didn't gratuitously insult anybody. We didn't attack anybody. We didn't invade anybody's personal life. We didn't dox anybody. We didn't do anything offensive to the platform. And they had no right to annihilate our existence and make us into bad people. They have no right to slander us with the label of forum terrorist. We didn't terrorize anybody. So it's just a lie. And if they don't fix it, I'm going to continue to be hostile, and I'm going to eventually, if I have to, sue them. It's just a fact, because again, their platform has a bunch of people talking absolute shit about me, and so how can they justify blocking me, who never talked any shit about anybody, blocking me and allowing them. They just can't. That can't be justified in America. How can you possibly do that? You know, how can you give people a platform to throw torches or whatever at somebody's house or something, and they don't have a right to throw them back? I mean, that's just bullshit. So, but again, I'm grateful for you to opening your room. But it is interesting that so far they haven't destroyed the second one, and that's good news so far, because at least we're able to post the argument, put them all in one place like that. It's demonstrating they don't have any argument. I mean, every one of these ways you prove kinetic energy to be a nonsense, and they haven't produced anything to weaken any of those arguments. All of those arguments are they have just as much integrity as they did the day they were posted. They haven't dented them at all. Fact. Absolute, very good fact. Yeah. Alright, so maybe I'll put the video back on for a little bit, and then I'll see what else I can do here. See if there's anything new. A new subreddit is going along great. I just wish it looked a little better. Yeah, I don't know what this looking thing you have. People have this looking thing. I just don't get it. They're physics arguments. Why should it look better? Sorry, I don't get that. I really don't get the whole appeal of the the videos playing all the time, all of this crap. I mean, it's very noisy to me. I find that really irritating. To have all this bouncing crap. I mean, it's supposed to be about subjects. So just let me see what your subject is. Tell me what your subject is, and then I'll read whatever your subject is. I don't mind a video playing, but I want to be able to hit the play button. I don't like it auto-playing. It's very annoying. But anyway, I don't like 1-minute videos anyway, so just shorts are just so useless. Anyway, that's my opinion anyway. It's not good brain food, shorts. And you're stuck with that. And so you can't even find an experiment done by real physics somewhere. And yet you're going to defend this slop. Alright, coupled oscillator with 1 and 2 mass. Okay, yeah, repeat 6 times by, again, disbar. Okay. And that's it. You don't have it from anyone else on the internet. No one else has done the experiment and demonstrated the results he got. But everybody's supposed to believe. I mean, you're just so dishonest. So there's no point in linking to any of these experiments because you automatically assume it's all garbage. It's not automatically assumed. People can watch the experiment and look at how badly it's done and say this is the best they can do. This is their fucking evidence, this garbage. Okay. Why then are the results always, so they're not always consistent? So just keep lying. I mean, Brozo had an experiment where he was right in between the two outcomes and he said, look, I proved it. Okay, Disbar couldn't figure out that he can't do the experiment certain ways. We did a pendulum experiment, compared a pendulum swinging this far with a pendulum swinging this much, and tested them the same way as if you can do that, and you can't do that. So these idiots don't even understand the variables. So anyway, consistent even when variables have been changed many times. So just lie. Liar, liar, liar. Disgusting. So this was a deleted comment. I guess they don't show it to you. And 4 more replies, but that shouldn't be here because that's already over here. Well, let's just see what it says. Let's see, your comment will be deleted for being way off subject. And so then he used a second account, which you're not supposed to have. Everything I wrote in my comment is provably true. So yeah, somehow it's on the subject. No, it isn't. I didn't see the comment, but I'm sure it is garbage. Okay, so it's, yeah, just links to the same crap. I don't know why they do this now. I mean, why on some boards do they delete the comments? Some boards you can see them, some boards you can't. I mean, this is just such kind of bullshit. This deleted in brackets, and you're not supposed to know who deleted it. Ugh, there's no way to run a railroad, as they say. Alright, so I guess that's enough for this right now. But I mean, just bullshit. This is not even complicated. There is no credible evidence that it requires 25 times the fuel to move something 5 times as fast. And it's just clear that not one of these people can admit, okay, I can't produce the evidence. That's not good. I mean, I shouldn't be making arguments for a scientific concept if I can't produce any evidence that it's true. And the fact that it is happening millions of times a day, I should be able to produce that evidence. This shouldn't be hard for them to produce this evidence. It's happening millions of times a day. 25 spring compressions to move something 5 times as fast. It's happening all the time. So why can't they produce a single shred of evidence? Yeah, right. It's because it is bullshit. That's the simple answer. And these people are just defending bullshit, which makes them worse than flat earthers. Flat earthers are just goofing on humanity. These people actually believe this shit, which makes them really dumb. Dumber than a flat earther. Okay. And more dishonest, frankly. I mean, right? How can you get more dishonest than this? To argue that somehow you have demonstrated any good reason for somebody to believe in mv squared, in living force. You have produced no good evidence for anyone to believe. All the way back to Leibniz, who just claimed 4 pounds dropped 1 foot is the same as 1 pound dropped 4 feet. So even though the two things don't have the same momentum, their claim is completely different momentums, 500, 250, or 500, 1,000. Completely different momentums, and they're claiming it does the same exact work. Pathetically stupid. Alright, so now we're back on the inelastic subject, which could be the sticking together subject, or you could call it the ballistic pendulum subject. So it's just this idea that somehow the kinetic energy can never be transferred to when you change the mass of an object. So when you convert the energy from a small mass into a large mass, you never conserve the kinetic energy ever. And the simple argument is because it's not real, and all you can conserve is the momentum. That's all there is. An 8-pound ball going 16 miles an hour will convey the same momentum to the bowling pins. It can't give them more momentum. It can distribute it different. That is, it can give more momentum to one pin and give a total momentum to fewer pins, but it can't change how much overall momentum is transferred. So the same amount of momentum is in the pins, but the same amount of kinetic energy isn't. So it does fail completely. And so this liar, okay, is going to continue lying. All right. So this is whatever it is, beat down kid. Okay, moron, fuckwit, smell butt is his real name, smelly butt. All right, this is built on the misunderstanding of what actually happens in an inelastic collision. No, we did that part. We want this new one. Okay, so obviously we're arguing that this, what happens is already well demonstrated by all the experiments, and the fact that the kinetic energy is missing is a fact, and it's never tested. And so he's just going to overtly lie. Okay, the idea that physics has never measured the loss of energy to friction, it's never been measured. There's no experiment. You can't find the experiment. You think if they measured it, they would not have filmed it or taken a picture of their measurement? There's no factual measurement, moron. All right, is simply false. No, you're false. You're a liar. You're just overtly lying. If the experiment existed, we would have it and we would show it. No one's showing it because it doesn't exist. All right. We measure it consistently. So it's constantly. It's never measured. So I'm just saying, everybody brings up the subject. The experiment's done all the time. The blocks, banging into each other. They do it on an air track. They do it on, they use a tape, that runs past the cart. They do it lots of different ways of doing this experiment where you just drop a weight on. No one ever measures any deformation or heat. So it's just a complete lie. So he says, we measure it constantly. Brakes heating up, not measured. Bearings warming, not measured. Surface wearing down, not measured. Temperature changes in collision, not measured. None of this, I mean, I can't believe somebody would say this is measured when it's measured in no experiment. I don't even know what this is. Calorimetry experiments, where is that done? Even warming of your hands. When is this done? So what would warming your hands have to do with preserving linear motion? So again, that's not even a sensible response. You're saying you can't conserve all the linear motion and create heat is the argument, moron. You can't conserve all the linear motion and then say you left behind a whole bunch of heat, because the heat has to be caused by transfer of linear motion, transfer of momentum. Duh. Oh, these people are just, I just can't believe they're all this many liars. Every single one of these science lovers is a liar. Every single one, so far. All of that is, he says, the measurement of kinetic energy during the initial turning into internal energy. There's no evidence of anything turned into internal energy. So again, just a big fat lie. All right, you can't make internal energy over there and keep all of your linear momentum. You can't do that, retard. That's called free energy. Shit for brain. The fact that a rolling object travels farther, doesn't mean energy is magically appearing. Yeah, no one's saying that. That the argument is that there's nothing magical about going 4 times as fast when your friction is 1/3. And that's the proof, is basically the friction is 1/3 for half the voyage. The friction is only 1/3 the amount of friction, because the object's only weighing 1/3 its real weight because of its fast movement. All right, it means that less of it is being dissipated per unit distance. That's exactly what it's saying. So if you're dissipating less of it as heat, you're losing less of your energy. So if you're making less heat as you rolled across the ground, it means you're losing less energy to the ground. Retard. Okay, if less pins are falling down, it means you're losing less of your energy to knocking pins down. Duh. All right, that's why wheels exist. Silly talk. Okay, so yeah, this isn't even. These people can't even come close to the subject. All right, the deeper mistake. No, your deep mistake is you have no integrity as a human being. You're a fucking pathetic liar. Ugh, and it's disgusting. You do it in front of everybody. Anyway, mistake is to claim that microscopic motion that has to be moving in a direction. Obviously, all motion is moving in a direction. So again, I don't know, this magical stuff that moves in every direction at once, and therefore must carry microscopic momentum. That's exactly what it's doing. It would be idiotic for me to think that little tiny things in the environment can't have momentum when they have mass and they move. If they have mass and they're moving, well, that's momentum, retard. But each individual molecule has its own tiny vector. Yes, we are asserting that. That's our argument, retard. But the energy doesn't. So whatever that means. So somehow the energy doesn't have a direction and a vector. It's just, again, this is such silly talk. There's no point in having a conversation with people who think the collision doesn't need to have things bang into each other. 2 things don't have to have vectors and have a collision to have a collision. Yeah, they do. Fuck for brain. Okay, their scalar energy can't hit each other. Scalar energy can't have an interaction because scalar energy could never bang into each other because it would never be moving a direction. This is just such convoluted shit. I just can't believe people believe this crap. Oh, that's why an object can heat up without flying across the room. What does the flying across the room have to do with heating up? We're arguing that a ballistic pendulum does not heat up any more than the lost momentum. That there isn't thousands of joules, that there's a couple of joules of heat. Okay, not 1,000 joules of heat. Heat isn't motion in a direction. Well, it certainly is. It's motion in every direction. Well, it's not every direction. Frankly, heat moves from hot to cold. So once you're in a pressurized environment, you're going to move to a low pressure environment. That's going to be a direction, a decisive direction, and you're never going to go the opposite way. You're not going to move into higher pressure. So you don't even know that part of physics, fuckhead. All right, randomly, he says. That's why it doesn't violate momentum conservation. Well, you're violating thermodynamics because, yes, heat doesn't go from low pressure to high pressure, you dumb fuck. It doesn't go from hot to hotter. All right, the ballistic pendulum example doesn't expose a flaw in kinetic energy. It's a decisive experiment in the sense that it shows it's complete made-up crap. All right, no evidence whatsoever that this kinetic energy shit can ever be transferred. The only thing that can be transferred is momentum. That's what's demonstrated clearly. Kinetic energy is never transferred. It demonstrates exactly what the theory predicts. That, yes, it'll never be transferred. The theory predicts that this has something to do with a living force and God. That's the theory, and it has nothing to do with a living force or God. There is no magical hobgoblin scalar bullshit fantasy energy. All right, anyway, momentum is conserved because it's directional. No, it's conserved because it's real. And kinetic energy is a fable. All right, kinetic energy is not conserved because some of it becomes, so you're just going to lie about this internal energy. Well, where is it? You can't have eternal energy and not talk about heat or sound. So he says it again, deformation. Deformation is irrelevant, so we all know that bending the fender, you don't lose the energy by bending the fender. You lose the energy because bending the fender makes heat. It's only the heat that is where the energy goes. The bent fender is just a residue, and that residue doesn't have energy in it anymore, and it's not used energy. The energy isn't used by bending fenders. It's still going somewhere, but now it's heat. See, these people just don't even get the whole energy conservation thing. They think they can destroy energy. They think they can destroy heat or movement. They can stop the movement. But the whole point of Descartes' statement is that you can't stop the movement. It's always going somewhere else. It breaks this thing, and then it crushes that thing, and then it smashes this thing, and then it bashes that thing, and then it bushes, and it just keeps going. It just keeps breaking shit. That's what energy does. All right. Let's see. Kinetic energy is not conserved because some of it becomes internal energy. All right. So he's just using the same rhetoric. No evidence for any of this deformation. All right, that's probably enough of that. As I think I've did some of that before, actually. So I'll give you a preview of the next argument, okay, which is the silly free momentum thing. It's so again, you have some experiments so obvious. So Steve Mould did this experiment. You create a flat surface, and best if it's a hard flat surface in the sense it's a weighty, heavy thing. But anyway, he didn't do that perfectly, so he could have probably gotten even more bounces out of it if he actually put it on a hardened cement floor or something, the experiment. But anyway, we can get a ball bearing to bounce 250 times. Okay, and their claim is that each time the ball bearing hits the surface, it puts twice the momentum into the object. And it's just so ridiculous that you can just store more and remake the same energy. So they think that you could throw a tennis ball at a wall. You get back 100%. So that is the pendulum swings all the way back to the same height, 100%. And that somehow you put energy into the thing you hit. Even though you got exactly back what you started with, you put energy into the other thing. Now, how could somebody actually believe that's possible? That could swing a pendulum in, get 100% back, and have put twice the energy into the other thing. Considering what I just said about what Newton and Descartes and Galileo kind of understood about momentum and the fact that this energy appears to be moving through the environment constantly, that you never use the energy, you only borrow it, okay? It only transitions through you, but it never stops. It just goes somewhere else in a different form. So it just keeps changing form. You eat the food, you do some motion, you create heat, you radiate the heat goes and, causes some other chemistry to fall apart and do some other work. And then that creates some other motion, and then that motion, and it just keeps doing that. And you see it in the big universe in the sense gravity keeps consolidating things, and then explosions keep flying them apart. And that's all the universe is doing. So obvious. All right. So anyway, the deleted comments was those weird accusations against you. Yeah. Well, I'm glad they're deleted, but I'm just saying it's just an example of this is what physicists have to resort to, is to lie. I mean, somebody gets arrested in another state and they have my name and therefore I'm guilty of the crime. I mean, that's how desperate they are. They can't do better than that. And because I whistled at a girl, that looked young, it's, wasn't 13, wasn't proven to be underage. I'm some kind of creep who should be thrown in jail because I said, hey cutie. That's too much. That's a solicitation. So because I said, hey, cutie, I should go to jail because I'm a molester. I mean, this is so ridiculous. I mean, this makes Jerry Falwell look like a wild and crazy guy. I mean, that's how sick and stupid this is. That this moral majority now is the standard for, how we're supposed to behave. That we can't have any fun with women. You can't flirt with a woman, okay, of any age, okay, without somehow being accused of some sort of molestation. I mean, this is so ridiculous that, it's just laughably mockable. And this is coming from this Valerie Rousseau guy who has fucking videos on his channel with icons. And one of the icons is a woman's ass, going to sit on a guy's face. He thinks that's funny. And then he has an image of a woman being chloroformed by a man. A man comes up behind her and puts chloroform in her face. And this loony is going to make accusations about my integrity or my character? Hilarious. So this is how duplicitous they are. They're such disgusting liars. They can't make an honest fucking science argument. And this is all they can do is this lying and this duplicity. This complete double standards. Amazing bullshit. Again, if I had done an experiment where the experiment results, one test looks like this and the next test looks like that, they would have said, oh, fuck you, Gary, you're a cheater. But if their side does it, oh, that's the greatest experiment that ever took place. This has tremendous, yes, computer software always, makes a lot of noise and stuff, but it always gets the right answer. It's all okay. It's okay. Computers like to make noise. Noise makes the experiment more fun. Some kind of bullshit, it's just it's so duplicitous. Okay, that's all you can say. It's so duplicitous. All right, yes, slanderous accusations that have nothing to do with the subject of physics, just personal attacks probably saved you the time. Yes, it's best to delete them, but I'm just saying it should be understood that why should this have to happen in the first place? It's a simple argument. Show me it taking 25 times the fuel to move something 5 times as fast. Just, show me. Or not. Show me or not. And if you don't, well, then I'm just going to conclude you don't have the evidence. So show me, or I fairly conclude there's no evidence. That seems perfectly reasonable, right? How could something be more reasonable than that? I say, show me. You don't show me. I say, well, then I conclude you don't got it. Right? If you say you have a talking fish, and I say, show me, and then you won't show me the talking fish, right? I have a right to say you don't have a talking fish. All right, there is no obligation to believe experimental results from people who are not interested in being careful about experimentation. I'm not even sure he's not completely interested, but yeah, I mean, the point is that clearly they only show you the results that come out their way. And Brozo was so clear about that's exactly what he did. So he did a whole bunch of experiments, and some of them just didn't go his way, and he never said a word about it. And it's just like the other guy, Gosling, right? He did the experiment with dropping stuff on the clay, and instead of showing us the video, he just said, hey guys, it's not coming out right. What do we do? So instead of just showing the video of it failing, he just pretended, it didn't happen. So it just shows more duplicity. They're not honest players. Okay, they're just interested in carrying on some vendetta against you. Well, that's clearly all they're motivated by is a vendetta. They don't really care about this physics. They don't really care about the science. Because again, if they did, they would have enough integrity to admit that yes, they should be able to produce this evidence of 25 times the fuel to go 5 times as fast, and they should be able to show us a generator spinning 5 times as fast, making 25 times the electricity. They should be able to show us that. Shouldn't be beyond their capacity. And such. So let's see if there's anything else. Preposterously cold in here. It's just, the weather is so bad. This winter's been just horrible. Very cold here. But you expect that, right? I mean, you have this global warming thing happening, so everything's going a little wacky. But you're due to have a real winter now and then. I just didn't think it'd be this year. But, they say all that shit about the temperature of the water in the Pacific and all that yin-yang-y crap that goes on. And so I guess it was due. But yeah, I really didn't see it coming this year. I mean, the last 2 summers I haven't been able to grow vegetables because it's just been so brutally hot. You know, I mean, you just have these 90-degree days and, you know, no humidity, just heat, you know, and everything just evaporates, you know. So, you know, unless you can, you know, pour water on the garden every half hour, you just can't grow anything. But anyway, that's not even on the subject at all, really. I'm just bitching about life on Earth. So anyway, this will be the subject tomorrow, I think. I suppose I could read what I wrote. I suppose I could do that. Let's see. Love the cold. Ooh, I hate that. Yeah, I hate the cold. I can't stand cold. Hate it. So yes, we do get it. We are living on the two opposite sides. I like it being warm. I just don't like it being insufferably warm. Well, I just don't like not being able to grow anything, for fuck's sake. You know, I try to minimize expenses, so I try to, you know, I use rainwater, I collect rainwater, all that kind of crap to use in the garden. I guess I have to just bite the bullet and use regular tap water, you know, I suppose. But anyway, all right, so what am I looking for? Looking for my text. I put it somewhere. Should be able to find that. Okay. So, the science of physics directly claims you can, in fact, make free momentum. So, I'm going to try to be describing this picture. One of the silliest free energy nut theories is in the core of conventional physics. Conventional physics says you can take a small hard object, hit a large hard object, and push the large hard object with 200% of the momentum the small object had. And you will get all of the original momentum back as a reflection. So amazing. They're saying you can literally do this, that you can bang something into it, convey all of the linear motion twice. Okay, somehow give it twice the linear motion momentum the object had. So twice the momentum is now in the object going this way. And the object goes back this way and rises all the way up to exactly the same gravitational point, and now can do the same thing again. Now, theoretically, right? So, I mean, you can get 99%, but you can't get, you know, 100%. But it's, you know, I'm saying theoretically, if you could take a little bit more, make it more and more perfect, you could literally get up to that 100% number and just have that perpetually bang, you know, and be an oscillator, you know, an oscillator with no losses, and it would just continually keep creating free momentum forever. Conventional physics thinks that can happen. They literally, like I said, even if it's only 95% back, you can understand it's going to keep hitting, and so it's going to keep adding more and more and more, so it's going to be 20 or 30 times the momentum. So you put in 1 unit of momentum, 1 unit of work, you get 20 units of work out. Who could believe that's true? I mean, realistically, who with any kind of science knowledge could actually believe that is true? But Professor Lewin teaches it. He just shows it right on the board and says it happens. He says it's non-negotiable that 200% of the momentum has to go into the fucking big object. It can't. If you throw a tennis ball at an object and the tennis ball only comes back with 50%, it means the other 50% is in the thing you hit, right? If you get 100% back, it means the thing didn't move. If the thing moves at all, you're going to get less than 100% back. You know that. If you throw something at something and the thing moves, you know you're not going to get all the energy back. So how could anybody, reasonable and intelligent, believe this silly crap? How? How can they do it without just being plainly dishonest? All right, visualize a pendulum with a small steel ball as the bob. You swing it into a large steel object with a hardened surface. The small ball bounces back with 99% of its original momentum. And science claims the large steel object absorbed 200% of that momentum. 200%. How could it possibly do that? Okay, it absorbed 200% of that momentum. Now, who could believe that? All right. Let's see. Absorbed. Okay, the small bob will bounce off the surface hundreds of times. So that's what Steve Mould. Now look, the second 100 are really tiny bounces, but I'm just saying it bounces. Let's say at least 20 times where it's a real bounce. And then it gets to be pretty small bounces. But anyway, hundreds of times, each time depositing 200% of its momentum. In the end, the large object might end up possessing 20 or 30 times the original momentum. So you put in a certain amount of work, you get 30 times more work out, and you didn't do anything. You didn't use any fuel. It's just magic-free momentum. Okay, 30 times the original momentum of the small bob. Free momentum is free energy, so I don't think that can be disputed. And the claim of physics is paradoxical. It's just ridiculous is the second word I used. Okay, this claim of physics is paradoxical, ridiculous, and is demonstrated by no credible evidence. So there's just no evidence that it happens. It's just silly talk, and physics should be embarrassed, substantially embarrassed, that this kind of crap comes out of its theory, that it could actually support a theory this frickin' stupid. All right. San Diego weather is great. Yes, I know that. But I get depressed in the summer most times. That's just weird. So you're the San Diego guy, huh? Yeah, I mean, it really is nice there. 75 degrees every day. Or 80, or whatever it is. Horribly pleasant. That's all I remember. But anyway. But I guess, I don't know, you must be somewhat drought prone because, it does seem like it doesn't rain enough. But whatever. That you probably do have to steal water from other people. But anyway, I don't know all those details. I don't know how many inches of rain you get a year. So anyway, is there anything else? Okay. Here in Berlin, it's really icy and slippery, quite annoying. Yeah, it's been below freezing, okay, for 2-3 weeks now. It just hasn't. We don't hit 40 degrees Fahrenheit. I mean, it just doesn't happen. And we had a foot of snow and it just never went anywhere. So all the snow is just sitting there in piles everywhere. And, it just sucks. There's not much you could say. I mean, the good news is it's so cold that it doesn't snow anymore. So that's good. But it's just really cold. And such. I mean, it's going to be, but I mean, it's going to be below 0 Fahrenheit, tonight, probably. Damn close. Very cold. All right, so let's see, what else is news? Anything else? Yeah, cold knocked my camera out, I think, too. But whatever. See if there's anything else. I love, what is that? Brutalist and winter aesthetics. Well, I don't know what that means, but fine. I don't. What's brutalist? Don't know. Yeah, I like summer aesthetics, like golf courses. Yeah, yeah, I like, you know, yeah. It is nice. You look at some of these images of Britain, and it looks so nice in some places. I mean, you have all these nice fields and all this nice, everything's manicured and cut well. But I imagine there's places that are a lot more shabby than that. But it does seem like it's awful well maintained. You know, where, you know, here there's lots of land that people don't own, so nobody cares for it. So it's all kind of ragged and shitty. But anyway, yeah, there's way too many trees here. I don't know why people are in love with trees. Bushes are fine, you know. We don't need trees. They just make a mess. They're just menacing. All right, let's see. I thought these physics subjects would have been treated like the film 12 Angry Men, where it would be taken with an open-mindedness, but it's the opposite. Well, I just think the idea, frankly, you know, of trying, you know, trying arguments and theories would be appealing to scientists, that they would actually set up some kind of real whatever they call that, editor kind of thing, you know, where you could, where there would be a fair trial for theoretical statements and arguments, and that they would be willing to, you know, expose themselves to some ridicule. So if they say there were detector experiments in the double slit, you know, and it could be proven that no, there was no detector experiments. No one ever detected a photon. None of that crap happened. So let's not say that kind of shit. And even the idea of saying the speed of force now. I mean, we're all grown-ups now, right? Okay, the physics has grown up. And it knows that the speed of force isn't just the speed of photons. It's the speed of magnetism. It's the speed of gravity. And it's the speed of all this other shit. So we shouldn't be saying the speed of light anymore. We really should convert that to the speed of force. And better understand that, you know, everything is made out of something. And light, like these other forces, is made out of something more elemental. That's why it manifests as gravity, and it manifests as magnetism, it manifests as electricity, and it manifests as photons. Because there's something common, elemental, some common thing that's elemental to all those things. That's the rational way to understand it. I mean, the very idea of inventing something called the bent space thing that isn't a thing, okay? It's not a mechanism. I mean, why did they find that satisfying? I mean, Einstein saying, forget Newton's idea that there's nothing. I'm going to give you this idea that, well, there's nothing, and it makes something happen. I mean, how is that an improvement? You know, Newton just saying, I don't know, is honest. Einstein saying, Invisible Man did it. Well, that's not honest. That's just bullshit. I mean, Newton joked about it being angels. I think Newton actually joked. Not sure. Maybe that's just a Feynman joke. Anyway, should be based on honesty. The Montana wilderness is great. So, well, you're all over the place now. Yeah, again, that's your business. Okay, I found Montana cold and nasty. So, not for me. I mean, they're interesting places. It's like Fargo and all, you know, all that kind of, you know, it's like a desert up there. But, you know, it's like a cold desert. And it's like, oh, this is creepy. It's a cold desert. You know, so there's all kinds of places that are interesting, but I wouldn't want to live there. You know, no chance. So, like I said, you could just, anything, you know, I'm a whatever the middle of the country is, that line, yeah, anything to the north of that, I couldn't, you know, no thank you. Not interested. The snow line, just wherever the snow line is, yeah, I want to be on the bottom. I want to be the part where they only get an inch of snow a year. That's the line, side of the line I want. I mean, you know, Virginia, North Carolina, you know, these are all nice. Georgia, I like Georgia. It's a little hot and all that kind of crap, but it's not as hot as Florida. So, yeah, it's nice. But I grew up in Louisiana, so I guess that's just part of it, is that, you know, I started life in a place that was really hot and humid, so I liked it. Yeah. All right. Is there still any place you'd like to visit these days? Yeah, visiting, I have no interest in visiting anything. It's all a head game, you know. Taking pictures with your brain for a few seconds doesn't mean anything to me. you know, if I can't do something forever, then I don't want to do it at all. Almost, it's that kind of. It's gotten to that kind of point where, I kind of hate things that stop. I mean, you can only do it for 5 hours, and then it's all over, and you never do it again. I don't want to do that. I want to stay. I want to go to paradise, and I just want to stay there. I don't want to have to leave again. Go back. Fuck that shit. Well, I don't even know what that means, so I don't know what that means. Let's see. Is there any place? Oh, okay. So he says boodle. I don't know what that is. Butte. I don't know what that is. Well, whatever. Shit. I mean, you have to appreciate and like that you've been places, and I've been a lot of places as a kid. The Grand Canyon, all that stuff. I'm glad I actually saw it. But the fact is, you can see drone video or some other kind of thing where you can see so much more. That's almost like, why don't I just watch the movie? Why bother going when the movie's probably better? Just a fact. But there's some things, it'd just be nice to be able to, if I could tolerate moving and going places. I mean, I'd love to go to all these famous golf courses and play golf, but that's just a silly personal thing. Just because I like golf courses. I like playing golf. That's yeah. So but I know it's not going to. I'm not going to come home, and say, "Oh, there, my life is complete now." No, that's not going to happen. So I know it's just an illusion that it will do me some good, because it probably won't. I'll probably just miss it. Oh, I can't go to, you get to go one day and you can't go tomorrow, and you want to go tomorrow and you can't go tomorrow, so blah, blah, blah. You just end up disappointed that the fun is over. At least that's how I see it. But yeah, I'm shut down, as a thing living for my life, living a life that I had some idea that I'm living it for a purpose or a reason for me, just doesn't exist anymore. I'm just a creature of now my fighting for the cause habits, and that's it. That's all I have left. Let's see, Montana is just a mix of industrial grit, Victorian area opulence, and western ruggedness. Well, whatever, says you. I just see redneck, but whatever, and the terrain is, it's okay, but I guess I don't see much difference from, let's say, if I said Wyoming and Montana, can I think in my head how they're dramatically different? Not really. You got hilly areas, and I just say Wyoming has Yellowstone, so it has all that really interesting stuff. So it's like Montana is just a boring version of Wyoming, from my perspective. But yeah, I don't like elk, and I don't. There's lots of stuff I have no interest in Montanaing. It's just don't get it. And again, mostly because it's colder than it's not as warm as the kind of place I'd want to live. But whatever, too windy, lots of things. I could have liked Texas if it didn't smell. I mean, Texas just smells. The whole state stinks of cow shit. It's like you can't go anywhere in Texas that doesn't smell like cow shit. So you really have to love the smell of cow shit to go to Texas, because you just can't get away from the stink. I mean, it's 90-degree cow shit too. It's not like it's, it's hot cow shit. It's like, ugh, ew. They just, we're probably in Texas 4 days, maybe, I don't know, something like that. It's just, you just felt like you were constantly being suffocated, like you were constantly looking for some place to go into to get air conditioning or something, just to get out of the stink. And the fact that the air just doesn't feel like there's oxygen in it. You can't, like, you can't get any oxygen. But the flat thing is interesting, with all that flat land, because you could see, rainstorms when they're 5 or 10 or 20 or 50 miles away. You could see them, and it just that was kind of interesting. You could just watch weather, in all directions. Lots of that stuff is interesting. All right. Well, anyway, this is just a bunch of, whatever this is. This little personal human interaction crap that I don't have much use for personally. So let me get back to business and my work and such and so forth and whatnot. And till the next time and such. Until the next time, when we can finally actually have an audience large enough to have a chat stream worthy of my presence. No insult to the present audience, but I'm just saying, you're not engaging enough to keep me motivated. But anyway, 10 people, so it's not terrible, but it's just not good enough. We need that 19 or 20 kind of number, or 30, for example, would be nicer. So anyway, likewise, thank you to all you people that have helped, and I appreciate your willingness to involve yourself in this struggle against hypocrisy and duplicity and dishonesty and just nasty shitoshery, shitty humans, fighting the shitty humans. All right, so till next time. Blah, 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 blah.